Ancient Narratives. Iran. Part 5. Darius, King of Europe, Africa, and Asia. After the death of Cambyses, Darius was worthy of kingship, as he was both from the Achaemenid lineage and a commander of Cambyses's army. On the other hand, Cambyses had no son to succeed him. Darius was born in 549 BC in Persia. His father was one of the special commanders of Cyrus's army and had been appointed as the great satrap of Bactria. After the death of Cyrus, he was also considered a senior advisor to Cambyses. The satrapies that had been conquered during Cyrus's reign declared their independence after the death of Cambyses. This led to a series of ongoing rebellions throughout the country. Darius opposed the independence of these satrapies and did not allow them to separate from Achaemenid rule. Over the course of 3 years, he fought against these rebellions, suppressed them, and restored peace to the land of Iran once again. Darius was a shrewd and political figure. He always had an eye on the future, which is why he recorded the events of his time to serve as a legacy for future generations. He created the rock inscription of Behistun, in which he described the details of these wars and the methods of punishing his enemies. In this inscription, the false Gaumata is depicted beneath Darius's feet. 3 years after this inscription, the commander of the Scythians rebelled, and Darius captured him and added him to this inscription. In this inscription, he is the 9th king who has been captured by Darius. At a time when Darius had suppressed all the rebellions and secured the satrapies, news arrived that the commander of Lydia and Egypt had declared independence and revolted against him. Furthermore, the commander of Lydia had defied all of Darius's orders and even rejected his request for troops during the war against the rebellions. He also failed to pay his taxes. These issues angered Darius, and he decided to attack Lydia and Egypt with his capable commander, Mardonius. The army of Mardonius moved toward Lydia. When the ruler of Lydia realized that the Achaemenid forces were approaching the borders of Lydia, he ordered his troops to defend the borders. A fierce battle ensued between the two armies, in which the Lydian forces were defeated, and Mardonius's army emerged victorious, allowing him to completely conquer Lydia. At the same time, the army of Darius approached Egypt, but before they reached Egypt, a messenger arrived in Egypt and informed the ruler about the defeat of Lydia. He was terrified by this news and decided not to resist. Thus, he opened the gates of Egypt and surrendered to Darius without any resistance. Darius, pleased with this action, chose him to remain as the ruler of Egypt. To win the favor of the Egyptian people, he ordered the reconstruction of all the temples in Egypt. Another action of Darius in Egypt was to instruct Artaxerxes, one of the Iranian elites, to dig a canal between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean Sea, connecting the two seas, which is now known as the Suez Canal. This achievement earned Darius the title, Son of the Sun. Before returning to Iran, Darius decided to annex all of North Africa into Iranian territory. As a result, Darius's army moved westward into Egypt, toward Libya. He was able to conquer Libya, and it became part of the Achaemenid Empire. After these successes, Darius left Africa and headed back to Iran. On his way back to Iran, Darius reached Mount Mer in a city called Persepolis, where he built the largest Achaemenid palace, known as Persepolis. Thousands of skilled architects and workers were involved in the construction of this palace. However, according to historical accounts, no slaves worked there, and all those who worked were paid. Persepolis was the site of Achaemenid celebrations, such as the Nowruz festival, during which all the satraps sent their representatives along with gifts for the king. The reason for Darius's war with Greece was apparently the pursuit of the Scythians in the Black Sea region, as they were constantly invading the territory of the Achaemenid Empire. Darius decided to rid himself of the Scythian disturbances. He was informed that the Scythians were causing unrest in the Caucasus Mountains, and Darius dealt with them decisively. Meanwhile, he was informed that other groups of Scythians were located across the Black Sea and could potentially cause trouble in the future. This provided Darius with the pretext to consider a campaign to the west and into Europe. As Darius's forces advanced in pursuit of the Scythians moved backward. Thus, Darius's army advanced to northern Greece and then captured the coastal regions of Greece and Macedonia. In this way, Darius became a king who ruled over 3 continents, Asia, Europe, and Africa. Darius also moved his army toward the Indus River and conquered India as well. A government of such vastness required changes in its administrative system. Therefore, during Darius's reign, a group of nobles was appointed at the court, while others were assigned to govern various regions, known as governors. The governors were essentially the administrators of different areas, and in addition to them, a military commander and an official assisted the governor in their duties.
اما سرورم دست نگه دارید. خواهش میکنم این کار را نکنید. این کار خیانت بزرگی است و مجازات وحشتناکی دارد. خاموش باش ای بزدل. سرورم باید هرچه سریعتر این را گزارش کنم.
Since Darius was always afraid that the governors might rebel against him, he sent a number of secret agents to various regions of the empire to gather information for the court and prevent any treachery by the governors against the king. The embezzlement of taxes by the governors was reported to the court by couriers. The couriers, known as chapars, were swift messengers who carried letters from one place to another. They often traveled on fast horses, and to ensure they always had fresh horses and food available, Darius ordered the construction of way stations called chaparkhana along the routes, where fresh horses and food were provided for them. Darius also made changes to the military system. He established the core of his army with Persians, followed by the Medes. In times of war, the subject nations, such as Babylon, Egypt, and Phoenicia, were obligated to send auxiliary forces to the army. During this time, for the first time, a permanent army known as the Immortal Army was formed, consisting of 10,000 men, whose duty was to protect the king and the capital. Darius married Atossa, the daughter of Cyrus, who was also the wife of his brother Cambyses. They had a son named Xerxes, who, with his mother's influence at court, was able to become Darius's successor. The Achaemenids reached the peak of their expansion during the time of Darius, becoming the largest and most extensive empire in the world at that time. If you're enjoying these ancient tales, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of the fascinating stories from history. Darius the Great took another significant action by creating a route that became the first international highway in history. This highway stretched approximately over 2,600 kilometers from Susa to Sardis, which was the capital of Lydia, located at the westernmost point of present-day Turkey. The Royal Road was a caravan route that connected Pasargadae to Persepolis, Susa, and other regions of the Achaemenid Empire, and it became known as the Royal Road. The Royal Road had many facilities, such as way stations and numerous caravanserais, allowing travelers to rest and couriers to have fresh horses. After the calm situation that Darius had established in the Achaemenid Empire, in 499 BC, Greek settlers in the region of Sardis revolted. In this area, a group of forces assisted the Greeks of Sardis, leading to a major uprising. They besieged the city of Sardis, which was the capital of the satrapy of Lydia, killed its inhabitants, and set the city on fire. When this news reached Darius the Great, he became very angry and ordered the Achaemenid forces to prepare. The Achaemenid army was to move west to suppress all these disturbances. The Achaemenid forces entered the region of Sardis, and for 5 years, the battles between the Iranians and the Greeks continued in that area. After these 5 years, the Greek forces suffered a severe defeat, and the region was taken from the Greeks, becoming a secure area once again under the Achaemenid banner. In 492 BC, Darius the Great sent messengers to all the city-states of Greece, asking them to submit to his command and to refrain from any thoughts of rebellion in the western territories of the Achaemenids. All the city-states of Greece accepted this except for Sparta and Athens. In fact, the Spartans took actions that angered Darius. They killed his envoys and threw their bodies into a well. When this news reached Darius the Great, he ordered an invasion of Athens and Sparta. The command of the Achaemenid army was entrusted to Darius's son-in-law, a man named Mardonius. His task was to campaign in the western region and take control of Macedonia, which he accomplished. He captured the shores of the Aegean Sea and then entered Macedonia, which also fell to the Achaemenid forces. The next target was Athens. The Macedonian forces boarded ships to head toward Athens. However, the weather was stormy, and the sea was very rough. The storm was so severe that many Achaemenid ships sank in the sea, making further progress impossible. When Mardonius saw the conditions, he ordered a retreat, and this campaign toward Athens was unsuccessful. After this event, Darius reorganized his army. A year later, in 490 BC, he ordered 2 of his commanders, Artaphernes and Datis, to once again campaign against Greece. The Achaemenid commanders, upon entering Greece, captured the islands of Naxos and Delos and took the city of Eretria. The next target was undoubtedly Athens. The Iranian ships, after entering the Attic Peninsula, reached the city of Marathon, which is located about 40 kilometers from Athens. The soldiers disembarked there, and around the same time, the Athenians received news that the Iranians were landing at Marathon. The Greek commanders were confused and did not know how to fight without facing defeat. The 2 armies stood ready for 8 days, with neither side launching an attack against the other, until a man named Miltiades, a Greek noble, devised a very clever plan. He knew that the Achaemenid army was divided into 3 divisions. The Immortal Guard was positioned in the center, while on the left and right flanks were troops that were not as experienced as the Immortal Guard. Therefore, he ordered the Athenian forces to be divided into 3 parts as well. The center would consist of troops that were not very experienced, allowing the Immortal Guard to advance. Meanwhile, the most skilled and strongest Greek soldiers would be positioned on the left and right flanks to easily break the Achaemenid left and right columns and encircle the Immortal Guard. The Greek military commander executed Miltiades' orders, and his army began the attack. After the 2 armies clashed, according to Miltiades' plan, the Immortal Guard was surrounded, and since the narrowness of the Marathon Pass prevented the Immortal Guard from advancing, Darius, the commander of the Achaemenid forces, ordered a retreat. They boarded their ships and returned to Asia. Meanwhile, the Athenian forces advanced and recaptured the islands they had lost. Marathon was the first battle in which the Achaemenids were defeated. Until then, the names of the Median and Persian forces struck fear into the hearts of all the known nations of that era. However, this legend of invincibility was broken in Greece, where the Greeks were able to defeat the Achaemenids at Marathon. This battle is recorded in most historical books, and there is no doubt about it. However, Herodotus's writings on this matter are biased towards Greece and narrate the story in a way that contradicts reality. Finally, Darius passed away in 486 BC after 36 years of reign. His body was embalmed after his death and buried in a rock-cut tomb at Nakshi Rustum, which had been prepared for him in advance. Before his death, he chose his eldest son, Xerxes, who was the grandson of Cyrus, as the heir to the throne. Thank you for watching this video. If there's a specific topic you'd like us to talk about, please let us know in the comments. Your feedback means a lot to us.